and welcome back to part 22 of Dragon Star VARNIR, where today we're entering the third and final Star Temple, the Western Star Temple, to defeat its Guardian Dragon, gain its intelligence, and see if one of us can become the next Dragon Star. If only the Guardian Dragon of Star Temple would just show itself already, but that would be nice, wouldn't it? It is the final temple, let's do it. Charlotta? You keep looking over your shoulder, what's wrong? Nothing, I think it's just my imagination. Huh? What happened? Are you alright? I told you not to worry, let's move. Hey, wait! Hope she isn't hiding something. I don't think she wants to tell us right now. I hope it's nothing. I don't think she would hide it from us if it was important, Karikaru. If you're just going to stand there, I'm afraid we're going to leave you behind. Hey, wait! The Western Star Temple is your final hurdle for getting the true ending. If you can get to the other side of this and the kids are still alive, you've won. Essentially, you've won. You've got there. If your madness girl is below 15 still and you have got all 3 kids alive on the other side of this dungeon, you're good. But this one will not be challenging the slow background time limit unless you've been doing really poorly throughout the adventure. This one's going to challenge that hard initial time limit. When you get to the other end of this place, you're going to feel it. You're going to go check on those kids, and they're going to be at stage 3 or stage 4. Stage 3 if you're skipping encounters. Which, just as a heads up, you're going to see me start skipping encounters in the second half of this dungeon, because I start to become incredibly aware of how long I've been in here for. Because although this video is only 25 minutes long, almost every encounter ends up taking a little while.
Let's go.
And when you keep in mind that I don't like showing off encounters against enemies we've fought before, so I usually skip them just to save time. There's a lot of enemies that are actually returning from previous dungeons that are just really beefed up in stats. And so they end up taking forever to take down because they're beefier stats, but I end up cutting the fight out because it's an enemy we already know how to deal with.
Get out of here.
Also, I could have gone left. The treasure chest doesn't have too much, and I do go back for it off screen for reasons you're about to see why. And it's this enemy here. Be afraid of the silver guns. Well, I say that, be wary of them if your meter is close to being full on any of your characters. If the dragon bar is getting kinda high with anyone, finish them off now. Do not let any of your characters go into their dragon forms before the silver guns can do their magic. Because they can duplicate themselves to make more of them, which is already annoying. But they can copy. They have access to the copy skill, meaning they will replicate the appearance, stats and moveset of one of your characters. I alluded to this at a previous time, that doing so when they're in their dragon form is extremely dangerous, because they will get all the stat boosts of that dragon form as well. And you're going to see that in this encounter, just to jump the gun a little. You're going to see what happens if someone goes into their dragon form and then they copy a dragon form. It is kinda terrifying. This encounter goes from doing alright to abysmal in literally one turn. Because it says Charlotta goes into her dragon form, and I'm like, alright, yeah, this will clean up nicely then. I can just get her to wrap some of them up and get them out the way. So I'll do that. Oh, Manessa's going into her dragon form as well. Okay, 2 of the 3 members are dragon forms. That's not good. It's not good. Now watch this. Never let them copy a dragon form. That is genuinely how dangerous they are. That was 9,000 damage per person. And look how much health we have. That was going to be a one-shot even if we were like 60 levels higher than we were. That's how insane the dragon forms actually are. You don't realise how powerful the dragon forms are sometimes until someone copies and hits you back with it and you realise actually no, their attack and magic attack stat go through the fucking roof when they're in their dragon forms. It's absolutely ludicrous how high it goes. It's just because the enemies have their stats balanced out defensively wise to handle it.
It wasn't that tough.
But it is genuinely horrible. If you ever bump into a silver gun or any enemy that can copy for that matter, do not for the life in you let them copy someone in their dragon form. Like, it is just no. They can actually copy someone in a berserk form too if they happen to get into that and you're, I mean, not fast on your ending. And in the same vein, they will also sometimes attack their teammates. Because I said they're berserked, they're copying a berserk form. They will just do random things. But in a similar vein, that's almost always a guaranteed instant kill if they hit your party too. It was unfortunate they decided to use Hell Impact, which was party-wide anyway, and we was all on the same row because we was trying to devour things, so we ended up on the same row. But, oh, literally... I kind of wish I had my live reaction recording for it, but because I'm doing all of this in post, I haven't really I've never plugged a mic in when recording doing this, because I know I'll be doing it in post. But genuinely, it was such a gasp and then such a long sigh when I realised how screwed I was by it. Thankfully, I'd literally saved just before I started, so I just loaded that save and it was no biggie. But I was like, no, I'm keeping that in so I can show you just how terrifying that can be. And you see me be a bit hesitant with the Guardian Mace entirely because I like Vanessa's magic stat. I like her SP, and so boosting everything else is cool and all, but the stat I care about was the one that was getting lowered. So that's why I had to kind of fight it for myself a little while. I eventually was like, I'm kind of giving up too much just to help one thing, so I might as well just cave in and accept it.
I'm taking it.
Oh, 34%. Come on, Charlotte, you can do better than that. You're going to see me get more and more pushy to try and get Devours early, just because I know how long this dungeon is.
I'll do my best.
Like, before I even went into it, I was like, this one's going to be the test. This is going to be the one that's going to stress you out. And it was going to stress me out, because it's just... Oh, and that's... It ran away? That's just stuck with these born lessers, which aren't helpful.
My feel unfortunate.
Also, I forgot, but their physical evasion stat is not too high, but it's high enough. So me just trying to get them out of the way by using Devours wasn't my wisest, because they're just dodging half of them.
Inside me. Release.
Also, this is why Charlotta's got her dragon form back again so quickly, because, you know, I just reloaded the save, so it was back to what it was. The first enemy I encountered was the same, but as you saw, the enemy where the silver gun was different.
This looks handy.
The way this dungeon works is a teeny tiny bit different to how every other multi-floor dungeon is. This is more maze-like, as in you'll be alternating between the lower floor and upper floor constantly throughout, which is why this section is so tiny, because we're going back downstairs to explore the next chunk, and then at the end of this there'll be two stairways, one that will go to a secret area with some loot and a dead end, and the other that will actually go on the next path. You keep on bouncing between the two deliberately because it's harder to keep track of on a map, because you can't, for some baffling reason, you can't change the floors when viewing the map. You can only view the floor you're on, which is a weird oversight. I get that no dungeon in this game goes any bigger than 2 floors, so they didn't really need to worry about it, but it still would have been nice anyway, just for comparison. So you end up getting lost a little, even on return playthroughs, because you're like, wait, hang on a minute, which stairs was the right one again? You have to kind of like make a mind map of where it is.
Stay alert.
As this is quite a collection of enemies. The biggest threat here is obviously the VARNIR, that huge ass fire dragon.
Get ready.
And so I immediately am like, no, I want you, because VARNIR has a pretty decent dragon tree.
I'll do my best. Yeah. Yeah.
And there will be more here. There's like, I think I fight at least one more before we reach the end of here, and I might have to get it for Charlotta, because fire-based enemies to the fire-based user, of course I'm gonna.
Sense the dragon.
And there's a silver gun in here as well, which is I'm extremely aware of, especially because Zephy's about to go dragon. And I'm like, but I don't want to like just freely throw out a physical attack because it will just duplicate itself because of it. So I'm being extremely cautious of how I handle it. It's like, okay, now it's already copied, the threat's gone.
The dragon.
Now I'm safe. Now it's already copied before Zephy went dragon. I can just deal with it. I'm like, okay, I can just go for it now and get it out the way.
My turn.
And now it's just dealing with our little turtle friend here.
My turn.
How unfortunate.
There we go.
I want to.
The experience you get here is great, and it's just like to help push you through the last dungeon. Like they'd almost like, I want to say they're taking mercy on you, but this is also the hardest part of the time limit, so they're kind of not. But it's more like they throw you a bone by making the enemies drop a lot of experience here, just so if you've got this far, you should be able to pull through, because even if you're not the right level for the boss, you will be by the time you get there. And also the Guardian equipment that you find in this dungeon is really strong. I mean, look, that's impossible to argue against when it boosts everything. Well, minus health, but health at this point should start to matter a little less.
Let's go.
After a set point in the game, your actual health meter and how much health you have starts to become a little bit irrelevant.
Get out of here.
Not as bad as like Final Fantasy 12, like, you know, at the end of that your health bar really became irrelevant.
Pretty cool.
Oh shit.
Going to win this.
Oh, there's a new enemy in this, so I keep this encounter in. I think this is one of the last encounters that's against new enemies off the top of my head, but we'll find out. I tried to go for a free instant kill and it just didn't work. And so now I've just got more trouble. I'm like, great. So we'll just deal with you. Yeah, it didn't do it. Thankfully it didn't duplicate. But it's a 52% chance, so I should have really just had... I should have just had Vanessa push for it, but oh well. Because Vanessa still has that accessory that I put on her like right at the very start of the game that gives her a better devour percentage.
The dragon inside me.
Oh, now you just do a basic attack. Why couldn't you have done that before when it was in the Super Dragon form? I might have survived that encounter then.
Get ready. No.
Oh, now we got too many Charlottas. It's using Rockstar. And now I'm like, okay, you go. You are going. And then it didn't die. I'm like, ah! And then it uses copy on Zephy, thank goodness. If it used it on Vanessa, I was going to start panicking again. Because we would have felt Power Assault probably even more. Didn't stop Zephy from getting knocked out though. Because, you know, it is using our stats, and our attack and magic attack stats are significantly higher than the enemies in comparison, so it ends up hitting us like a goddamn truck. It's just the way they balance out the stats to make it so you feel like you're doing decent damage and the enemy's damage back to you is balanced out. They have to, like, mess around with it quite a lot, and how they handle it, in most games it's included, is that the enemy stats is actually significantly lower than yours. In very specific ways. They just have far higher defense, but their usual attack and magic attack is far lower than yours would ever be. So when it hits you for what's respective to your health and your stats. So then when something that's using your actual stats with a far higher attack and magic is sent back to you, it wipes the floor with you. And it's an unfortunate balancing act that exists in a lot of games. And it's something that in any game that has some way of your skill coming back at you with the same power, it hits you like hell. Like most Final Fantasy games are like that too. Final Fantasy V, my biggest hurdle was myself. If they used Reflect in an untimely time, and I threw Flare at them, I was killing myself. It was going to hit me for 9999, even though if it had just hit them, it'd only do like 3000.
Thank you.
My turn.
This is really hard.
And it's why our party's still weak, even though Zephy's only... like, this one is the only thing left. Like, now we're kind of free. Yeah, this Gordo is a little bit of a threat, but it's not too bad. Thankfully we managed to get it out of the way. But now everyone's weak, so we need to heal them up. Fucking... Getting stuck on poles when you're already on a time limit is not appreciated, game. Now, this is the point where, when I was recording, I was like, oh shit, that's the second staircase. This is when I realised, yeah, you see, like, the penny dropped and I remembered. I was like, no, this is actually a maze-like dungeon. There's multiple staircases. I know which one's the wrong one, and we'll be going there first for the loot, which is probably even more dangerous for the time limit. If you're really paranoid about that time limit and, like, feel like you're getting really anxious about it, don't worry about the loot. Come back. There's literally, once you beat this dungeon, we finish this chapter and we go into the interlude. The interlude is one cutscene, one boss fight, and then the time limit is officially done. And as I've mentioned before, cutscenes don't count, and the boss fight isn't going to take you 40 minutes. It will take you less than 10, because it's not actually that hard a fight at all. It can be tough, but if you have a good strategy down, which you should do by this point in the game, you can get through it. Also, here's a weird thing. Yeah, I went past the arrow, so it didn't load me up to the next stairs. I was like, huh? But this is the absolute wrong way.
Let's go. Get out of here.
But there's some good loot here. And another one of these guys. The last one ran away from us, but I think I managed to get this one.
Crazy feeling.
Well, I'm going to assume I did. It was only that thing on its own, so it was an encounter we'd done before, even if it ran away.
This seems useful. Yeah.
Ooh, and a Guardian Hammer. That's for Faria. This Guardian equipment, probably the best thing about it is that if you do want to experiment with your team, but haven't done because you know it's just wasting more time on the time limit, the equipment you'll get in here for everyone will put your party in a good enough position to try and experiment a little bit. I'd still wholeheartedly recommend, if you want to mix up your party beyond this point, backtrack, do a quick run through every area you've been through in the game, and try and like collect as many dragons as you can with that cast, just to build them up a little bit. But you can still survive with what you've got, they'll just be a little behind. What I'll probably do, like, I say probably because I haven't actually started recording post-game yet. In my recording, I'm like, just before the final boss, it's just been way too hot, so anytime I'm not recording, I'm not using my PS4 outright. Like, I'm not recording anything right now. Like, it's why I'm glad I've recorded so far in ahead, but in case any reason happened that I couldn't record. But it's literally because it's been so hot this past week in the UK, it's literally like, my room has been averaging 34 degrees Celsius. I don't want to then turn on my PS4 when it's going to generate heat anyway, and overheat the thing. Make it just kill itself. I just refuse. I don't want to take that risk. When it's just doing this recording, it's not actually running any intense games, so it's still relatively cool, and it's not been a burden or trouble whatsoever. But anytime I fire up any games, those fans go off and the machine gets hot. But that being said, it is finally starting to cool down now, because I think we're at like 26 today. I say that in our time where I'm in the UK, it's not even like 10 AM yet, so it's still early. We haven't even got close to the hottest part of the day, so it could still pick up yet. But at least for now, it's not too bad. So I might try and squeeze in the end game just so I can have the main game done, because I like to try and get the main game done as soon as possible with these kind of projects, just so I know what I'm working with and how many parts it's going to be, like how much footage I've got, sort of thing. But with this one, I want the whole game, like the main game, finished as soon as possible. But I want the entire project finished, that's showing off the entire post-game, done before Death End 2 comes out. Not necessarily uploaded before then, but recorded before then. Because otherwise it will just throw me off, because Death End 2, although similar, is going to obviously play different. Because I mentioned it before when I was playing Death End 1, it really threw me off that I had to hold the opposite button to run away from encounters or speed things up. Like, to skip animations, you have to hold R2 in this, and it's L2 in Death End.
I'll be taking that.
And that kept on throwing me off, and there's a lot of little things like that I don't want to deal with. I'd rather just finish off everything with Dragonstar and then going to Death End 2 with a fresh slate kind of thing. The dragons lurking around here are really strong. If we let our guard down, we could die at any moment. Lapinette, are you alright? Are you tired? I'm a little tired, but I'm okay. Okay, good to hear. Don't overdo it, though. Yes, of course. I'm sure we'll be there soon. I'm glad morale is still doing well. I can appreciate everyone's hope and optimism. Let's keep this up and find the Guardian Dragon. Yeah, let's do it. I think that was a good time as any to mention it. You might have noticed, if you pay attention to the cutscenes, since the moment Feria joined, she's contributed nothing to the plot. Literally, the only conversation she says is just agreeing with someone else, and then the next character says something, and it's in a way where if Feria wasn't there, the conversation wouldn't be affected at all. You know, because she's technically an optional party member. And it's just an odd thing that this game does. It gets better when you're on the other side of the time limit, because it knows by then it doesn't matter. You're locked in with everything you should have. There's the door that you need to unlock once you beat this dungeon to come back for an extra fight, by the way. It is that far in, so don't bother coming to it until after you've done the interlude to be safe of the time limit. Otherwise you're just wasting your own time coming back here and making unnecessary risks. But as much as I get that she is technically an optional member, and if you absolutely fail everything, she will leave the party again, which is why they have to be structured like that. It still does kind of feel like it goes against her character development, that she's worthless. It's like she's trying to prove that she's mature and that she can keep up and that she is worthy. And it's like a proper like growing of age, like becoming of age story. And the moment she joins the party, she just might as well not be there in terms of the plot. She just kind of sits there and goes, yeah, come on guys, and then the next person says, yeah, come on guys, and someone says, yeah, let's do that, and it's like she just gets ignored basically. But it does get better with it. Once you're on the other side of the interlude, your ending is locked in, so they know it's impossible for Feria to just leave the party because you're not going to be able to do anything to get her out.
That seems nice.
So they leave it in and she starts to gain a lot more relevance again back into the plot. It's just for a good few chapters, it's like, who's Feria?
Here we go.
Other than to just make really, really weird and uncomfortable social links because the age difference is questionable as hell. And I get that it's a Japanese game and they're usually not that fussed, but it's implied Zephy's in his 20s. And Feria, like, there's no way she's, like, even 16. I refuse to believe that.
Let's go.
And I've heard a few things say that like this game deliberately is vague on people's ages so they could get away with that sort of thing, like not make it weird. But I don't know, vague or not, it's still weird. Maybe it's just because I'm not a part of Japanese culture, so that sort of thing is raised into me to bug me, because of course it does. But I know that's just never sat well with me, and I've never really been comfortable with it.
Easy.
And it's like, you notice, like, last part when we was doing the social links, when we got the Farius one, I was like, the last two is when they get weird. And the last step we got for Feria is in a, not in the same vein, but similar enough, when it's like, there's like relations they're kind of building towards it, and you're like, stop, please.
My turn.
Like, especially because, like, with everyone else, like, because when you get to the second to last one, it's when there's potential for a relationship, and so Zephy will notice that something might be a little more than just friendly sort of thing. But Charlotta's the only one that's kind of obvious about it. Everyone, bloody hell, Zephy! What? I was just talking about him, and now the dude's dead. Like, Zephy's like, sorry, Charlotta's like the only one who's like very clear about it. Also, like, now she's there. I'm like, what's going on? She was at full health a second ago. It's because of the double team. These two are double teaming so strong because they're using multi-hit skills on the same target, so that everyone's just getting wiped. I was getting very worried at this point. But Charlotta, as I've made very clear throughout this whole project, is the one that makes sense to start dating Zephy at the other end of it. Because it's very symbolic of both their stories to be together. Well, even ignoring the symbolism, which I'll get to that in a second, because at this point I'm like, what the fuck's going on? I think I used like a hard revival stone just to get the whole party up, because I was just like, this is too much. Yeah. But it's like, Charlotta was the first person to actually give a shit about Zephy's background, like ask him about it. Charlotta wanted Zephy to become a witch, to become a potential candidate, and reached out to him and set things in motion, so she already knew of him. And then you go into the symbolic side of it. Zephy's parents fell in love knowing it would be tragedy in the end. Zephy and Charlotta falling in love is not too dissimilar. And what I mean by this is that even if they get through the curse, because not spoiling anything of the plot, even if they did manage to get through the curse, Charlotta's immortal, Zephy isn't. So there would eventually be a tragedy. There would eventually be a point where one of them has to separate from the other. But that's symbolic of Zephy's parents and how they loved each other, despite the fact they knew it was never going to end as happy as they hoped. They knew it was going to end really unfortunately and very miserably, yet they still chose to love each other anyway. So Zephy and Charlotta doing the same in that sense made perfect sense to me. Like, it feels really fitting, and that's what I mean by it's kind of symbolic of Zephy's parents and how it affects Zephy's love life. And don't get me wrong, everyone else I can kind of understand it, because I see a lot of, like, in the very small community that is the Dragonstar community, I see justifications for pretty much the whole cast except Feria. No one's really brave enough to try and justify Feria, and can you blame them? But it's like, Minessa, it's, even ignoring the fact she's the box art girl, Zephy helps her find her, like, her inner self, learns to appreciate the more meaningless things. And one of the more meaningless things, arguably, is having a love life, having someone that you choose to have to love in your life. You don't need it to survive, but it's very much appreciated. So you can see that connection of it getting taken. Karikaro, it's the whole learning to rely on, becoming symbolic of... Also, look at that! They're all stage 4! They're all stage 4! I was like, ah! I, at most, had 5 minutes. I'm willing to bet I probably had closer to 3 minutes left before I lost them. That's how close it was. Which is why I'm like panic feeding. I'm like, have this food! But it's like Karikaro, it's learning to rely, and so you can see the connection there of learning to rely on Zephy, eventually leading to her feeling for him, yada yada. Lapinette, it's learning to find love in herself, and then over time thanking Zephy for it and getting closer to Zephy through it. Fairyu is just admiring an older person that turns into a really creepy crush. Anyway, next time on Dragonstar, we're going to be finishing off the Western Star Temple, because there's not much left, only the boss fight, and then we've got entering the end game with the interlude and then the final chapter. We're so close now. But anyway, you guys take care now.